又夠人，請大家坐低，希望大家返回座位。
It's the appointed time and we have a quorum. Please go back to your seats.
各位同事，我哋而家進行2015。
This is the election of Chairman of the Finance Committee for the 2015-16 session. A valid nomination should be made by at least one member and seconded by a member that does not make the nomination for the member nominated to be accepted. I nominate Mr. Chan Kim-paul. I accept. Seconded by Mr. Wong Ting Kwong. Any other nominations? Mr. Alan Leong. Ms. Emily Lau. Seconded by Mr. Charles Mock. Do you accept, Ms. Lau? Yes. Any other nominations? If there are no other nominations, we will have a closed ballot. Does anyone require the two candidates? Mr. Albert Chen, what would you like to do? I want to ask questions. I want to ask questions of the two candidates. We haven't reached that stage yet. Sit down, catch your breath. Does anyone think that the candidates should speak for, say, 1 minute like what we did before, and questions asked of them? 1 minute each. I would like to know how many people would like to ask questions, because I like to get an idea of the time required. Mr. Albert Chen, please put your hands up. Those who would like to ask questions, raise your hands. Only 2 people. Well, we'll have to hear their platforms, and then we will decide. Thank you for teaching me how to chair the meeting. I've already asked how many people would like to ask questions so that I can set aside time. I know, and I've already asked your questions. I would like to hear that platform first. What if members ask to hear the platforms first? Number 1 candidate is Mr. Chan Kim-paul. You have 1 minute. Thank you. As I said on the 5th of October, during my visit to the 2 members, I said that I do think the administration should provide sufficient and accurate information to this committee, and they should give us satisfactory answers before we can vote. And chairmen should be impartial. It's different from members. Chairman himself or herself should be impartial. And thirdly, I think it's the natural right of members to ask questions, and they should be given sufficient time to participate, and it's the duty of the chairman to make sure that the meeting is conducted efficiently and effectively. So I ask for your support. Ms. Emily Lau. Thank you. I appeal to members for support. I think a lot of members here have worked with me before when I was the chairman of the Finance Committee. I was impartial, just and fair. And I also asked the administration to respect the council when they give us papers. It should be given in a way that a lot of differences can be reconciled. Failing that, the administration should give sufficient time for members to ask all the questions they have. When I was the chair, I did deliver. And afterwards, as you can see, that there even is a litigation. So I ask members to support me, to support someone who will endeavor to protect the dignity of the council and to make sure that administration will give sufficient information in that paper. Does anyone who want to ask questions press the buttons? For anyone else? Okay, just like what we did before. 2 minutes question and answers included. Mr. Albert Chan. First of all, I'd like to clarify that when Ms. Lau was the chair, she evicted me. It's not the case that I would automatically object to someone who has evicted me. And I thank Mr. Chan Kin-po for visiting us a few days ago to present his platform, and he told us that he would be impartial and fair. But it's easier said than done. And you will have to and the public will have to perceive that you are impartial and fair. And the public are concerned about bias and also collusion. Last time with the NT Northeast, they were concerned that the chairman was a non-executive director of 3 related companies. So Mr. Chan, he is an executive director and an honorary director of Munich Insurance. And that company is related to a lot of infrastructures, one of which is the high-speed rail. I do admire his attitude, but when it comes to conflict of interest, would you refrain from chairing the meeting to make the public see that you are fair and impartial? Mr. Chan Kin-po. I do think that we will have to follow the rules of procedures. It's not up to me to decide whether I would like to do it or not. And it's stated very clearly in the ROP that when it comes to speaking, when it comes to refraining from chairing a meeting, attending, there are all rules. Last time, Mr. Ng Leung Sing said that there was no direct pecuniary interest. However, he was attacked. And I do think that we need to stick to the rules. Mr. Albert Ho. Mr. Chan said he would be fair. He would balance the rights of members and he would allow members to ask questions, this and that. But from his past behavior, it seems that Mr. Chan Kin-po, among the other loyalists, is one that is getting more and more radical. One time, you engage Albert Chan and you scolded him, and the chairman asked you to retract what you said, and you just walked out. And if that's how you behaved, should we give you a vote to give you the chairmanship? Well, because it seems that you will be the one that is representative of the loyalists. The chairman is a referee. Of course, if you are a footballer, you try to kick the ball into the other's goals, and you will do whatever you can to express your views. And during the Occupy period, and I do feel compelled to clarify a lot of distorted facts. And I have a lot of good friends, including Mr. Lam Tai-fai, who advised me not to be so agitated. And in the future, even if I am not the chairman, when I express my views, I would be calmer. And rest assured, I know that the chairman should be impartial. And I do realize that when you have different hats, that you should behave differently. So you can assure us that you will control your emotions and would not let your emotions affect your judgment. Can you give us the assurance? But I have said that a lot of people told me that people will try to provoke you, to make you worked up. And I know that you can see, as when I was the chairman of the financial services panel, I was completely calm. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. It's not Mr. Chan to decide what his emotions is going to be. I decide that. Don't worry. I'm just saying that I will say something that would be jarring to him. And that is not a very big problem. Well, for the second issue, there is going to be filibustering. And CY Leung's ITB is not innovation. I would say that it's more like injury. And Technology Bureau. Well, CY Leung has started to say that he has a lot of things to do. Can you ask him to give us more information? Because all he said so far is just rehashing what he said. So this Injury and Technology Bureau. So what is this terms of reference? What will they work on? What is the reaction of the business sector? Well, the reason why there was filibustering was that he opened his mouth and a lot of hot air came out, and I tried to make him give us more information. So, is there any way to for you to make him speak? Well, if I become the chairman, I will relate Mr. Leung's views to him and also to the bureau. I can tell you that Democrats have 58% of the vote, but we have fewer seats, so I can tell you what the result is going to be, and this is rather infuriating. Mr. Ray Chan, well, this is for the two candidates. Mr. Justice Ao said that the chairman has the right to decide to end a debate. Of course, that will be happy news to any chairman. Well, for the incumbent chairman, our questions have been stopped for 37A, and it wasn't it wasn't a provisional motion. So what will be done? Candidate number one first, Mr. Chan. The judgment is very clear. The chairman has the right to cut the debate, but of course it will have to be reasonable. If discussion can be conducted for consensus to be reached, then that's all well and good. But if that can't be done, of course, the chairman will have to make a reluctant decision. And if it's serious, I can understand that it may last longer. But if filibustering occurs everywhere, then I think it's lost its meaning.
Ms. Emily Lau, I would hope that the government's proposals would really incorporate members' views such that all members are satisfied. This will minimize the chance of filibustering. But when there are views expressed, of course, I'll be very careful in examining the issues, and I will follow the procedures, and in the course I also seek the help of the Secretariat. But the most important thing is to be impartial. Of course, I understand that the meeting must at some point be adjourned, but we need to allow members the opportunity to express their views such that everything is covered, and there is then there's a chance of the case being lost in court. That's the end of the questions and answer session. The voting would be carried out by secret ballot. I will now invite staff members to distribute ballot papers to members, and a chop each, and after fixing the chop with a tick on the ballot form, I will declare that the voting is closed and no more ballot papers were distributed. The staff members will immediately collect the ballot papers, and members are required to put in the ballot papers in the ballot box in person. Should the bell be rung? So after distributing the ballot forms, since everybody is here, no need to ring the bell. Just now we didn't ring the bell either. Mr. Chan Kin-po is candidate number 1, Ms. Emily Lau number 2.
OK。秘書叫我同大家。
Madam Clerk has just reminded me to tell you that just now when candidates spoke and took questions, a verbatim record will be prepared by the Secretariat, as is the usual practice.
嘅咧，咁原來由於係不記名投票，請大家不要。
As this is a secret ballot, please do not show your ballot paper to anyone else. If you have put in the tick on the ballot form, please fold the ballot paper in half. Has any member not got a ballot paper? If members have filled in the ballot form, I declare that the voting is closed. Staff members will stop distributing ballot papers, and please begin to collect ballot papers. And would members please put in your ballot paper in the box in person. Before you do so, please do not leave the seat.
係啊，林健鋒提名嘅。梁家傑。而家請阿林健。
Would Mr. Jeffrey Lam and Mr. Alan Leung please come up to witness the vote counting, because both of you made nominations. Mr. Jeffrey Lam and Mr. Alan Leung. We distributed 57 ballot papers. We collected 57.
Funko, how are you? 1號
Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 2. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Don't cover your ears. You could hear more clearly. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Blank vote. Blank vote. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Only 56 votes, 37 plus 18 plus 1 blank vote. 57 votes, ballot papers received, right? Short of 1. Even with a 1 blank vote, we only have 56. 37 plus 18, that's 55, plus 1 blank vote, that's 56. I work in the restaurant, in the catering sector. I am best at doing calculations.
18係啱嘅係咪？
18, that's correct. 18 plus 1, that's 19. There should be 38 here. It's correct if you have 38 over there. 38 votes for number 1. Correct? 1 blank vote. So altogether 57. I declare that Mr. Chan Kin Po is returned as chairman of the Finance Committee for the 2015-16 session. So, let's proceed to the election of the Deputy Chairman of the Finance Committee for the 2015-16 session. A valid nomination should be made by a member orally to be seconded at least by another member orally. And the candidate nominated should accept the nomination. Nominations, please, Mr. Yip Kok Him. Mr. Chan Kam Lam. Anyone seconds? Mr. Stephen Ho seconds. I want to explain to you that my office will end till Wednesday, the 13th or the 14th of October. I mean, next Tuesday, and starting from next Wednesday, Mr. Chan Kim Po will be chairman. We're not remunerated for that, but you can ask for a special meeting. Well, if the government would like to have a special meeting, please tell me in advance. Mr. Stephen Ho seconds. Mr. Cham Kam Lam, do you accept? Yes. Any other nominations? Professor Joseph Lee. Ms. Emily Lau. Mr. Sin Chung Kai seconds. Ms. Emily Lau, do you accept? Yes. Any other nominations? If not, I declare that the voting will be carried out by secret ballot. Would you like the candidates for the deputy chairman to explain their platform? No? Staff members will now distribute ballot papers to members, and after you have filled in the ballot form, I will declare that the voting is closed and no more ballot papers were distributed. Staff members will immediately proceed to collecting ballot papers. Would you please put the ballot papers in the ballot box? Would you please affix the chop with a tick in the box next to the candidate of your choice? Number 1 is Mr. Chan Kam Lam, and number 2 is Ms. Emily Lau. As this is a secret ballot, please do not show your ballot paper to others. After you fill in the ballot form, please fold your ballot paper. You've affixed the chop incorrectly. Would the staff member please give him a fresh ballot paper? Give it to Mr. Ray Chan and take away the one that he has filled in incorrectly. Any other member who hasn't got a ballot paper? Ms. Virginia Yip, please give her a ballot paper. If you've filled in the ballot paper, I declare that voting is closed. Staff members will stop distributing ballot papers, and would staff members please collect ballot papers. Members, please put your ballot paper in the ballot box yourself, and please remain in your seat before you do so. Mr. Chan Kam Lam and Miss Emily Lau, members who nominated these two candidates, Professor Joseph Lee, and the other member, would please come up.
Joseph. 你投咗票啦嘛？你要自己擺落個票箱，唔好
Don't leave your seat. I'm sorry. I said it too early.
OK， 我哋總共派咗
Okay, we distributed and collected 56 ballot papers.
葉國謙員，
This is Kwok Kim.
56
56 ballot papers have been distributed and we've received the same number. Two. 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 One. Two. One. Two. Two. One. 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 Two. One. You're not happy with my accent. One. 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 Two. One. Two. One. Two. One. 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 Two. One. 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 Two. 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 One. Two. Two. One. One. Two. Blank vote. 2. 2. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 56. Yes, that's correct. I announce the result now. Chan Kam Lam has 33 votes. Emily Lau has 22, and there is one that is not valid. So I declare that Chan Kam Lam elected Deputy Chairman of the FC for the 2015-16 session. Meeting adjourned. The new chairman and the clerk will work out meeting timetables which will be given to members. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.